Now let us explore how the various realms of mathematics originated. I will be referencing the table in the diagram, and you can also refer it as you are reading this particular section. I did not want to be just reading out the content of the table. Instead, I wanted to make it more interesting and memorable. So I will be adding some kind of hypothetical stories along with the data provided in the table. We might be tempted to think that mathematics is something that was handed over by the gods, or that it was always here. However, it is not so. It has been developing over the last 5,000 years. To help you understand through analogies the history of mathematics, I want to bring in the invention of fire, electricity, and Facebook. Man was not born with the ability to make fire. The prehistoric Homo sapien sure didn't know how to make fire. We must conjecture that he must have accidentally rubbed two rough surfaces and fire sparkle came out. Then he repeated that process. Fire again came. Then he must have taught it to his tribe. That tribe must have spread the knowledge of fire to others. Then, over time, people must have discovered more efficient ways to make fire through experimentation of chemistry and physics. Fast forward many thousands of years, and now we can make fire using a matchstick or an electric lighter or a gas lighter. Now let's look at electricity. A scientist called Michael Faraday discovered that electricity could be produced by rotating two magnets in opposite directions. A small discovery led to direct current and the alternate current that we are now using. Its application grew wild and far. However, at the beginning, when Faraday came up with the concept of electricity, he never would have imagined that it would be powering the internet and our ability to communicate over vast distances at the speed of light. Coming to a more recent discovery, Mark Zuckerberg came up with the concept of Facebook in the early 2000s. The intention was very small. It was just to help friends share pictures of one another on a common platform. With the ingenuity and the creativity, as well as practicality and pragmatism of us human beings, like any other discovery or invention, Facebook is much more than picture sharing platform. Now, in the light of those three discoveries or inventions, I would like you to look at the origin and evolution of mathematics and its various realms. So, around 5,000 years ago, in Africa, namely Egypt and India, a situation must have occurred whereby there would have been excess of wealth, and the kings and pharaohs of those times would have needed some ways to rule the population and to leave legacies behind through monuments. In this way, the need to have a concept of numbers and the ability to add, subtract, multiply, and divide would have been discovered. If nothing, people would have needed to count the number of cows they would exchange for the number of goats in a barter trade. Then, around 2,500 years ago, geometry was invented in ancient Greek by Euclid and Pythagoras and Thales. It was a time of a high level of intellectualism in that part of the world. Philosophers abounded. Some, like Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, excelled in the right brain part of learning, that is, languages and communication through debates. Then the other kinds of philosophers who excelled in the left brain activities of logic must have discovered geometry in a similar deductive and inductive approaches of philosophy. They must have shaped arithmetics that had been already so prevalent by then. Those mathematical philosophers would have looked at various shapes and came up with rules, definitions, classifications, and logical, systematic solutions to problems. At first, it would have been just for fun. Later on, like the invention of what we already discussed, fire, electricity, and Facebook, it should have evolved. Then, in the second century, or around 2200 years ago, the same Greeks, along with the Indians and Islamic scholars, would have developed trigonometry. They would have been faced with the problem of exploration of new lands and the study of the skies that we know as astronomy. So, the use of a triangle to estimate the various distances and directions would have been a necessity by then. Again, it was possible because arithmetic and geometry were already well established by then. Then, very much later, about 1000 years ago, the Babylonians, Indians, and the Islams would have discovered algebra. It was a logical, systematic growth of the earlier discoveries of the realms of mathematics. The problem that would have needed to be solved was to find the optimum value to achieve certain goals based on certain facts that we already know. And this is the basic tenet of algebra. At first, they would have used it for simple tasks like the optimal number of bricks to carry or the optimal number of items to keep in stock. Again, I am just hypothesizing here. They would have developed linear equations as well as some quadratic equations after modeling the problems that they were supposed to solve. In terms of the mathematical history, very recently, that is just 300 years ago, in France, René Descartes and Pierre de Fermat discovered coordinate geometry by combining algebra and geometry together. Their discovery enabled the building of cathedrals and giant engineering structures, as well as the progress in leaps and bounds in physics and other areas of engineering. The beautiful and amazing thing about nature is that somehow they follow the rules of mathematics. It's amazing and difficult to believe, but that's how nature works. And this enables the advancement in technology that we are so used to today. That is, again, thanks to mathematics development up till this point. Then the momentum picks up in the same 17th century. Isaac Newton discovers calculus. However, the debate always reigns on whether it was him or Lane's Beats who discovered mathematics, calculus. Among the two, whoever it was, the world benefited. Like in the case of fire, electricity, and Facebook that we discussed at the beginning, the objective of calculus was to help Newton study the motion of planets. He wanted to find out at what speed they were moving and also the position they would be at a certain point or of time. Linear algebra didn't allow Isaac Newton to come up with these answers because the motion of the planets was elliptical. So the mix of algebra, trigonometry, and geometry wouldn't do much to get the answers that Newton was looking for. So both him and Leibniz discovered the rules of calculus, and the rest is history. Although calculus was the baby of Newton, and it helped him only to study the universe and heavy objects in the sky. The later generation scientists and mathematicians used calculus to open unthinkable doors of physics and engineering. Without calculus, there would not be modern flight, space travel, or electronics and the vast network of electrical systems. Then in the 19th century and the 20th century, that is since the last 200 years, people like Gauss, Poincaré, Riemann become fascinated with mathematics and devoted their time and effort into exploring the depths and widths of what the various rules that were discovered so far could lead to. These pure mathematicians focused their entire brains to get into the deeper theoretical understanding of the various realms of mathematics, combining one and another, finding new rules, new applications. They would do it for the fun of it, you can say. Fourier, a mathematician, came with his Fourier equations. When he developed them, there was no practical use of that, but later on, the engineers realized that it helped them simplify complex waves into simpler sinusoidal waves that presented themselves to easier solutions through calculus. And this is just an example. As an author, I have to admit my limitations in this regard because my research hasn't gone that far enough to give you a vaster sets of examples of pure mathematics and their applications, or they stay in the pure state. Finally, since the last 100 years, man has not stopped using mathematics to help him enjoy the technology that is almost making him godlike. So that's where applied mathematics come. You have to know that artificial intelligence, which is so popular in the time of this book's writing, was possible because of the development of mathematics so far, namely of calculus and statistics. Many other pure mathematics theorems were used and are still being used. Most of our medical treatments would not be possible without mathematics, and that will deal in the later sections also about the application of mathematics. The development of mathematics in the past 300 years were mainly limited to the European continent of France, uh, England, Germany. This is where the biggest leaps were made in mathematics. Of course, applied mathematics is now a global phenomenon where scientists and engineers in the USA, China, Singapore, Japan are champions in. In this way, you have read about the history of mathematics, like you had learned about the history of fire, electricity, and Facebook earlier on. Don't be afraid of mathematics. Don't deify it. Mathematics is a discovery, invention, creation of man that has occurred across the last 5,000 years. There were mainly half a dozen turning points in the history of mathematics that caused quantum jumps. And now in the 21st century, we are enjoying the fruits of the labor of the mathematicians of lore